February 26, almost exactly a month ago to the date, PPG Paints Arena saw its best game of the entire winter, which means that the one tonight in Manhattan, could be even better. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer up daily shots of Steelers and Pirates where you found this. It will be Penguins versus Rangers, 7:08 p.m., Madison Square Garden. First meeting there, second meeting of the season, and everyone will recall the first meeting, the 1-0 shutout that was way, way, way more exciting than what that score might suggest. Playoff intensity from front to finish, outstanding saves at either end by Tristan Jarry and Igor Shesterkin, an Evgeny Malkin blast early in the third period accounting for the only goal. Just tremendous theater, and exactly what you'd both expect and want from a potential first-round playoff matchup in what just might be, that's might, the game's best division. A couple nights ago in Buffalo, I asked Mike Matheson how this game might be shaping up in the Penguins' minds. And for context, it was after the game, so it's not like I was asking him if he was looking past the Sabres or anything. This was after that 4-3 shootout loss.
Like the victory that you guys had against the Rangers might have been the game of the year in Pittsburgh. I've heard a few people feel that way. How much are you looking forward to the rematch here at the Garden?
I mean, that's going to be, probably the biggest game of the year up till now. It's as things get closer to the playoffs, it's looking like it's aligning with us playing them in the first round. And there's, it's a 4-point game in the sense that if we get 2 in regulation, we're impeding them from getting 2, and can go a long way into securing home ice advantage for that possible series. And if not that, then even giving us ourselves a chance to get into fighting against Carolina for the lead in the division. So it's a huge game, and we'll get to New York, rest up, and go get excited for that one.
Biggest game of the year, the man said. And he wasn't referring to the last one. He was referring to this one. And he brought up a couple of pretty solid points there. The obvious one about going head-to-head against the Rangers, but also that, look, if the Penguins win this one, they're that much closer to the Hurricanes, who, incidentally, are only 2 points ahead of them right now. And maybe that's an even bigger goal to be chasing. This portion of Daily Shot of Penguins is brought to you by the good people at the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, where they're committed to providing food for all of our neighbors in need across Western Pennsylvania. They, in turn, need your help. Find out how $1 can be turned into 5 full meals. For those in need, visit pittsburghfoodbank.org. In fact, the more I think about that goal of chasing the Hurricanes, the more I like it. And yeah, that flies directly into the face of other things I've said recently, but a season is a fluid thing. The scenarios change. And while I've said again and again, Penguins are going to make the playoffs, utilize this time to try different players in different roles and try to bring up this guy or that guy from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And I'll stand by all of that because the Penguins are going to make the playoffs, and seeding and placement usually don't matter much. They certainly haven't in the 5 championship runs that this franchise has enjoyed. But let's look at this another way. I mentioned the Penguins being 2 points behind the Canes, but they're also 2 points behind the Panthers for the top record in the East. And if they were to draw the number 1 seed in the conference, they would end up playing the Capitals. Now, that's not exactly a free pass to the second round. It's still Washington. But it's a Washington team that did very, very little at the deadline to address its needs. By that I mean they brought back Marcus Johansson on the wrong side of 30. They insisted that Ron Francis in Seattle take on Daniel Sprong. And most importantly, they did nothing to address their goaltending weakness that's now spread evenly between Vitek Vanacek and Ilya Samsonov. And I'm sorry, but if you put the Penguins into a best-of-7 against any team that's got inferior goaltending, you're essentially handing that series to Pittsburgh, because the one thing that's held the Penguins back over the past couple of months has been finishing. And if they're just being handed goals, particularly from the perimeter, they're going to beat that team. So if you're the Penguins, as Matheson suggested, it's not a terrible thing in this event to prioritize finishing first in the division, maybe even in the conference. Look, we're talking about a team that hasn't gotten out of the first round 3 years in a row. Getting out of that round kind of matters because it renders everything else moot if you don't. All they need to do to remind themselves of that is to rewind to last year when they thought they had everything going through the spring. Honestly, they kind of did. They ran into the Islanders. Jari ran into his demons, and that was the end of that. Get through the first round. Get from 16 teams to 8. Then just, navigate all the rest. And also, hey, win this game. Because these are the kinds of games that lift you up over a longer term. They're the kinds of games, the kinds of outcomes, but more than that, the performances within the outcomes that allow you to just laugh off, really, a showing like the one a couple of nights ago in Buffalo. You carry your confidence through that. That's a really good trait for a team to have in the games that matter the most, meaning, of course, in the playoffs, because the downs can be really, really down in those moments. And you've got to believe that you can bounce right back, in some cases, depending on the schedule, the very next day. Win this one. Keep adding to that list that I'm always citing for you of really good playoff teams that the Penguins have beaten this season. The one tonight is definitely one of them. When we come back, just one question. Today's J1Q comes from Michael Crow, who asks thoughts on why the Penguins are the NHL's best road team and why they're better on the road than at home. It's a good question, Mike. It's a fair question. But I'm going to read you these records out loud. You might wonder why you asked it. The Penguins do, in fact, have the best road record at 21-7-5. But their home record is 18-9-5, which really isn't so bad. It's actually 10th best in the league. You asked about records. There they are. What I would look at within that is how they've played and why they've played that way. And I go all the way back to that season opening trip across Florida. The blowout of the Lightning on their ice right after they raised the Stanley Cup banner again. And then the very next night in Sunrise, they didn't win that game. lost 6-5, but came out of there with a point, and a hard-earned point in which they showed they could skate missing a third of their lineup with one of the league's more impressive rosters. They saw right then and there, and then again through a 3-game Canadian swing that I also covered in Montreal, Toronto, and Winnipeg, where the exact same style was employed, the exact same 200-foot intensity. We're not going to give you an inch. We don't care if you're Austin Matthews or whoever, because we're just going to shut you down. Those 2 trips, between the way all 18 skaters contributed and the way Tristan Jarry played in particular, set the template for how this season needed to go. I feel very, very strongly about that. I did at the time, and that's only solidified since then. What's maybe gotten muted a little bit is that there have been occasions when they've done this at home too, and I'll cite again, as I did in the opening segment, what they did to the Rangers. New York came out flying in that previous meeting. All their guys, but so did all of the Penguins guys. And even though the Rangers, especially of late, by the way, have been a defensively deficient team, they competed that day every bit as hard as the home team. So I do think you've seen the Penguins be better at PPG Paints Arena. I also think you've seen them, not always be great on the road, as happened the other night in Buffalo. The biggest value of all of this, of course, comes in the playoffs. You got to be able to win in hostile environments with fans screaming and breathing down your neck. And this team, in large part because of that road record, is going to be better prepared than most when that comes around. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, not just today, but all week long and however long you've been with us. If you like what you hear, I'm going to ask a favor of those of you, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, leave us a nice little review. However many stars they offer, take them up on that offer. This isn't a vanity exercise. It's something that really, really helps the algorithm without getting all techie on you, and helps the show be heard by a lot more people when they come in and do searches on their favorite subjects, like, say, for example, Pittsburgh Penguins. Anyway, thanks again. We'll do this all over again Monday morning.